Hey there everyone! A friendly reminder that being nice to people is cool, and the opinions in this video may be exaggerated for dramatic purposes. Thank you. Hey DE, what's the Stalkers deal? In March of 2023, he's gonna be 10 years old. He literally was in the game when I started. Back in the day, getting a dread or a hate was like winning the lottery and getting two Paris Primes stuck together with scotch tape, but he's never really been a character. You know, he started as sort of a means to an end, a cool recurring antagonist to spice up the more linear, sort of mission-focused gameplay of really, really early Warframe. And then, when the second dream came around and sort of fundamentally changed how the game works, naturally he had to be a part of it. You know, like, short of Alad V, the Stalker was probably the only villain people actually cared about, and so they actually had an investment in wanting to kill the guy. The problem is that his job isn't really to be some big bad guy who's always out there scheming. He's just kind of an edgy dude who wants vengeance or something. His job is to show up, gank you in the middle of a mission, teleport away, and that's it. Not sit there and talk about why. Compound this with the fact that the second dream was setting up a hell of a lot of things to define Warframe's universe and gameplay to this very day, and Stalker is relegated to essentially an elevated lackey, an excuse to put the objective marker somewhere that makes sense. But that's fine, you know, he's just some edgy guy after all, and besides, we get a little bit of development from him. He refuses to kill your operator, so there's some things to work with in the future. So what's in the future? Well, after the second dream, the next Stalker-relevant story is an Operation Shadow Debt in 2016. Apparently, sometime in the recent past, Stalker met 6 other people who also have no motivation and also want to kill the Tenno. Really wild how that happens. Did I mention that the Stalker has no actual impact on the plot of Shadow Debt, and it's basically an excuse to make new Warframe-like enemies? Again, not really a bad thing. I love the Acolytes now that they've been folded into Steel Path, but it's a missed opportunity to give some love to Stalker's character. Speaking of missed opportunities to give love to Stalker's character, let's talk about why I made the video in the first place. I just played the new war, and since that last Warframe video I did blew up, I'm sort of obligated to make a recap of what happens in it. And wouldn't you know it, the Stalker's back again. He took a bit of a backseat when War Within was happening, so it's fun to see him be relevant again. And he helps you out this time, which is super cool. He's fully piccoloed now, apparently, so naturally I was really interested to see if he had anything to say. And apparently he didn't! This is now the second major quest that Stalker has been important in after 8 years of the game, and he still hasn't said a word that matters. No short acknowledgement of your strength when he helps you finish off the sentient archons. No communication during missions about how the blood that soaks your hands will never be clean, but there are more important things to take care of. Not a single word escapes Stalker's mouth, despite seemingly doing a complete face turn since his introduction. It's incredibly disappointing. This was a great opportunity to inject some character into Warframe's longest-running antagonist, really, during one of the most in-depth quests in the game's history, and there's barely even a nod to the years of history between your character and the Stalker. I understand that the Stalker is a dumb, edgy weirdo who isn't really here to be a character, but DE has written plenty of characters that are really fun to hate. Nefanyo's bloviating about how bad the silver spoon in his mouth used to taste. Teal Rigor's remarks about how you're just jealous of his tubes and his tube men. Vehek's entire quotes page on the Warframe wiki. All of these characters are just as shallow as Stalker, but they have lines that have stuck in the community's minds for a long time. Just say the words corrupted Vor to someone on Reddit, and they'll probably have flashbacks to grinding T4 capture missions for void parts. But as the game has grown from a solid shooting game with an interesting premise to a huge multiversal space opera that also happens to involve cyber ninjas, the Stalker, despite still being a very prominent and important part of Warframe's world, hasn't grown along with it, and that's a shame. There's a golden opportunity here to make a character who simultaneously remains one of the only people to know what the inside of a Warframe is actually like, as well as someone who really wants to kick your ass. This character should be the Vegeta of Warframe, not some silent goon that sits there and patiently waits his turn, while the rest of us scheme around. I want a Stalker who gets annoyed when we have to work together, and constantly makes my job harder because he wants to kill first and interrogate later. I want a Stalker someone can make a comic about, a Stalker people can theorize about, a Stalker that has a reason to be doing what he does, beyond some vague codex entry, alluding to some horrible massacre that I'm sure most of the writing team has probably forgotten about by now. This character is so important to Warframe's history, and he's been involved in so many stories over the years, that I should be able to understand why Stalker does what he does. But time after time, even with the event that introduced 6 brand new Stalkers and revolved completely around the Stalker as a character, we get nothing. He sits there in the corner while we go out and solve the problems, waiting for his next RNG check to pass so he can do his one job, and that's really sad. I wish this character was better, because there's so much room here for an NPC that can do more than just sit there and wait for the more important people to finish the conversation. Thank you for watching. I'll have the new war video out within the next couple weeks, so sit tight. If you're watching this video, statistically, you're also not subscribed to my channel, and I'd appreciate if you changed that. But hey, even if you don't, that's fine too. I'll see you around sometime.